Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of What's Next with Ronika. Before we get started, if you haven't been here, you need to watch more episodes because you already know how I'm about to get started. I'm going to say a fun fact about the world and then a fun fact about myself. So, my first fun fact about the world, is that there are more tigers and lions in Texas in captivity or in zoos than there are in the wild. And for those that didn't hear it, I'm going to say the fun fact again because I think it's really interesting. Shout out Tiger King. There are more tigers and lions in Texas alone in captivity than there are in the wild. Korean's in here. She hasn't watched Tiger King. I'm very disappointed in her. She would know so much about this if she did. Second fun fact about myself is I've been to 9 different countries over my past 21 years, and half of those were because of volleyball. All right, but let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of What's Next with Ronika. If you don't know what that is, oh yeah, fun fact, I took out my braids. It's not really that fun. It took me hours. But if you don't know what What's Next with Ronika is, it's an IG live series where I hop on live with former student athletes who are now in the sports and entertainment industry just to figure out what's next and the steps that it takes to get to where they are. So our guest for today is Cameron Ellsberry. He is an associate producer at ESPN, former St. Joseph College football alum. And throughout the live, I always hate when I do this, but my phone already knows, questions in the question box. Pin. Throughout the live, you can ask questions in the question box and answered at the end. I hope my phone doesn't slip. And we'll get him in. Hi.
What's up?
How are you?
I'm well. How you doing?
Doing good. I feel like my phone's falling off. Okay. Well, yeah. I'm glad that you got your Instagram back, by the
I
way.
know, man. That spam was killing me. It was killing me. The hackers.
I couldn't imagine. But
Like,
when we get started, you went to St. Joseph's College and you were 4-year letter winner. But outside of sports, you participated in so many extracurricular activities. When I was reading your website, it was like musical, DJ, anchor, host, like all these different things. And you said you wanted to experience you want to get as much experience as many different things as possible. Why was that a goal for you?
I think where my school was in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, cornfields, nothing to do. It was a struggle. So it kind of me and a lot of my friends took advantage of that because there's less people and less things to do now. I felt like I can get my hands involved in everything. So it was like, hey, all right, we have parties. I like music. I'm going to this party anyway. Let me DJ. I can earn
Mm.
some extra money. And when I say DJ, it was literally iTunes sound up, Windows Media Player down, and would just go like that. And but it worked. It worked. People liked the vibe, and we had a good time. But that was my thing. Was I was in the middle of nowhere with football and school. Outside of that, I had to have something that can kind of consume my time.
Hmm. And going to a D2 school, I feel like a lot of student athletes are like, I want to go D1, I want to go D1. Do you feel like your experience at a D2 school limited you in any way?
I think maybe athletically, the resources that we had available to us, like nutritionists and like some of the gyms and some of the
Mm.
facilities. But outside of that, I think it kind of gave you that chip on your shoulder, which I think translated to the real world perfectly because you kind of go and it's like, oh, you're D2, and kind of people kind of give you that side eye. And it's like, yo, I did the 2 days too. We grinded. We
Hmm.
did the same thing. We went through the grind with a little less resources. So in a sense, it's to some point we worked harder to get to the points that we got to, but we didn't get the recognition because it was D2. So I think having
Hmm.
that chip on my shoulder in my career, I've always felt like that. And it's helped because a lot of times I work with people that went to a lot of bigger schools, and it's like, you went to where? And it's like, oh, I went to St. Joseph, and now the school's closed, so now it's really like, oh my God. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I was like looking up things or trying to find
it's
a gift, but I'm like,
uh
I can't find one. It's fine. You
yeah,
still
yeah.
rep it
I still rep it every now and then, but
every
hopefully the
now and
school
then.
will bounce back.
No, but throughout your experience, you got internships, you're working with NFL films, ESPN, ACC, but before that, you were working in sales or
Yes, I graduated with 2 degrees from college, mass communications and math. And my first job out of college was at Macy's, and they had me in the women's department. So it's like it wasn't even in like the electronics, where I'd be like, oh, I can learn a little something here, and it was tough. It was humbling, and it kind of really like it was that was probably one of the most difficult parts of my life.
Mhm.
But I kept shooting my shot, and then eventually got offered an internship with NFL Films, and I watched you an essay, which dope interview. Essay kills it. She was there, and she talked about how she went as an internship with minimum wage. I interned before her, and I signed on at like $130 a week. And I thought that was going to just be that, and they still took taxes out of it. So that first time was a little struggle, but I was just so grateful to kind of be out of Macy's. But I think that experience always kept me humble moving
Mhm.
forward.
No, and I think a lot of student athletes, like if they're not starting right away, then you almost feel like a sense of failure because you're always used to winning and exceeding in whatever you do. And so now, job at Macy's, like you feel like you failed in a sense.
Yeah.
But what did you learn about yourself and who you can become from your trials and tribulations?
I think it kind of taught me like no matter what kind of gets thrown at you, that you can put a smile on your face and do the best you can. One thing that really stuck out to me was I was working at Macy's, and like a lady nice, she wanted to give me a compliment to my manager. She's like asking, and she's like, "Are you in school?" I'm like, "Oh, I just graduated with a degree in math and mass communications." And she's like, "Oh, you're here now." And I'm like, she didn't mean it in that way, but it kind
Yeah.
of allowed me to, all right, there's going to be doubts and things like that. But the more I think you face those things, you're able to take rejection. Okay, cool. I applied for ESPN 30 times and
Mhm.
eventually got it once. And like you said, early on, once you're starting to get those pushbacks, you start to kind of doubt yourself a little bit. You've worked hard. Dang, I'm still not a starter. And you feel like you put the work in. But I think it just kind of made me go harder. And like I said, having that D2 chip on your shoulder just kept having me push, 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 and try to get to where eventually I wanted to be.
Mhm. And I saw that you traveled to so many different places. After your internship, you went to Brazil, and playing football there didn't work out. The league was canceled. Is that what
Yeah.
happened?
So it was funny. Like I was done playing football and I did my internship, and somebody's like, "Hey Cam, are you still interested in playing football?" I'm like, "Nah, not at all. I'm kind of done." They're like down in Brazil. Oh yeah, yeah, I'm about that action. So I worked with like my producer there, who's a former athlete at Mizzou. He played for the Chargers. He helped get me back in shape. And the thing was to get me down there to kind of help out with their television stuff as well as
Mhm.
be a player's coach. And so the opportunity worked out. I got down there. That was my first time leaving the country outside of Canada, being from Detroit. That's right there. And we went down there, and they were trying to get the league going and just ran into some trials and tribulations. But for me, it was a dope experience. I got to be out the country, and I actually got to work with some of their, I guess what we would call like minor league teams or semi-pro teams.
Mhm.
And so it was fun. I made some bonds with people I'm still cool with on Facebook, and it was it was a dope experience, even though the league didn't pan out. But it was awesome to even be kind of a part of that process, and it helped me kind of get back in shape, which I
Mhm.
kind of need to get back there again now. So for
Quarantine time.
I
Got to put
know,
the work in.
facts.
No, but on your journey, you spoke about your resources and what got you from, point A to point B. What was so important, or how did you build your network?
I think it was just kind of being me and being social. My first internship, it was kind of just me shooting, and I got it. And my producer there, Sean Coffey, like we talk to this day. He's got a couple Emmys. I'm a little jealous of that, but he kind of helped get me in the door. And from there, once I kind of got in that door, it's making those connections. Once I was in that door, let's make some connections in this door. And then once being in that situation, that helped me open up doors in each avenue I got. Every job I've gotten from Big Ten to ACC Network to ESPN to the second time I went back to NFLs and to and even when I went down to Brazil, all that came off of kind of networking and just being good to people that was around you.
Mm.
Somebody that helped me get into ESPN the first time was somebody I never really worked directly with, but our interactions were so positive. When somebody reached out to him and asked about me, they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, Cam's a stand-up guy," and that's not
Mm.
even somebody who I was putting on my reference list or anything like that. And it just really made me think that you never know who knows who in your industry and who you interact with. And if you have those positive interactions with people, you never know what doors can open. And it opened a lot of doors for me to get me to where I'm at now.
That's facts. You never know who, like, everyone knows someone. You never know.
Absolutely.
But what advice would you give to student athletes with your experience in being going to Macy's, going to Brazil, coming back to NFL Network, all the internships, different jobs, moving different places? What advice would you give to student athletes who are thinking about starting the same career path as you?
I think shoot your shot. Like I think people always think of shoot your shots like dating and all that, but
Mm.
you never know if you reach out to somebody and you see somebody doing something that you want to do, DM them. Get on LinkedIn, find somebody that has a career and just ask, hey, I'm interested in what you do. Can you help me out? You may get some no's, you may get some nobody responding, or you may get somebody that's like, hey, absolutely. One of my first mentors was somebody whose DMs I slid in. He was a sports anchor for Channel 7 in Detroit. And I just said, hey, I'm on a career path and I kind of want to do what you do. He
Mm.
said, no problem. Let's link up. We did lunch and we talked. And we never actually worked together, but he helped me early on and just being positive in that. And I think too many people are scared of that rejection. No, you
Mm.
never know until you try. You apply for the job, you didn't get it. Apply again. Have somebody help you out with your resume. Have one of your mentors, if you get a mentor, say, hey, what can I do better? If you got through the interview process, try to ask for feedback and see what
Mm.
you can do. It's just like sports. You're not always going to win, and sometimes you learn a lot more from your losses than you do your wins. And you just got to keep pushing.
That's true. My coach always told me like you gain the most knowledge from your losses because that gives you experience. You only get experience from losing because if you're winning all the time, you're not learning anything. It's like
Absolutely.
it's like I hate losing, but okay.
I know. Ironically, too, earlier this year, like I worked on volleyball for the first time this year.
Hey.
And so I had a pit game, and I was still early in the season. And so I had watched you guys when you played pit. I watched the game, and I saw they wrote in the segment with the bowling, and I was like, "Yo, that's pretty dope that she's doing that." Like, especially right now, early on, and then ironically, here we are now after the
That's
interview.
so
Yeah,
crazy. The world is so small.
so small. That's how you got to think about it because you
Mm.
just never know.
Yeah. What has been the greatest advice you received?
The greatest advice I got was just keep going. Like it's almost like that Mamba mentality.
Mm.
Um, if you get your chance and get in the door, like that's one thing. There's gonna be people that are gonna try and help you because they care about you. They care because you look like them. Once you get in that door, don't disappoint and
Mm.
and try to work your butt off. Like I never wanted to take days off because I didn't want somebody to get in my position and do it better than me.
Mm.
And that's something like some of my big brothers that I call in this industry and some of the mentors have taught me. Hey, Cam, if you're going to get on that big assignment, go do it and try to do it at your best. And that's what I try to do. Try to get in there and kill it the best I can and
Yeah.
treat it like it's a sport and try to get that win.
Yeah. That's another thing my coach always told me is like you guys have to be competitive in the classroom and in your sport. You guys are student athletes. And we're like, athlete student.
That's
We're
how they
trying to,
always, yeah, it's always funny how that balance worked out. But
yeah.
at the end of the day, we're always competing no matter
Mm.
no matter what you're doing. And it doesn't always have to be against an opponent or so. You can be competing against your teammates to make each other better. Iron
Mm.
sharpens iron.
Yeah. What right now, during a time like this, a time no one expected, what does your job look like?
So right now, it's a lot of self growth. Like this is almost kind of like the off season for us, where
Mm.
we kind of like I would have been working on lacrosse, so we'd have finished up around Memorial Day weekend, but we had a couple Zoom meetings today where everybody's just trying to get better. Hey, what can we do in this time that we're not doing games? All right, let's look at some previous games. What could we have done better in this situation? What things do we think worked and didn't work?
Mm.
And so it's just self growth. Like I look at it as in the off season for us. And the key in the off season is to get better, and that's what we keep trying to do. And it's kind of fun too because you get a second to kind of sit back, breathe, and like, all right, let's see where can I do
Mm.
better? What can I learn from? And anybody who may been in this industry longer, it's a good time to reach out because they're not really doing nothing or like work wise.
Yeah.
And so you can get some good mentorship in here and get and learn a little bit.
Mm. And by the end of your career, what is your goal?
To
What's your
produce the
dream?
Super Bowl. Produce the Super Bowl
Ooh.
would be that would be the number one goal. I think unfortunately, like I don't work with a lot of producers in my industry that look like me. I think I can count three black producers I've ever worked with, and I know of a fourth one who people speak very highly of, but I've never met him, and that's from Big Ten Network, from NFL Films, and all the way to ESPN. So, I think to be able to try to put myself in that opportunity to be able to show somebody younger than me, like, oh, there's somebody that looks like me, I can do
Mhm.
that. And in sports, the biggest event there is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Maybe the Olympics, but I'm a football guy, so I'm gonna say
Yeah.
Super Bowl, and that's what would be the goal for me.
Yes, speak it into existence.
Trying.
We'll open it up for questions. Let's see. Kareem, sliding the GM is not enough. How important is the follow up?
The follow up is major because it's one thing to get in there and say, "Hey, can you help me out with something?" And then they're like, "Sure, what can I do for you?" And then you're just non-existence because now that person, you never know what their schedule is. They took that time, whether it took 2 minutes to respond, but their openness and their willingness and they're ready to help you. You have to be ready to go. That's like if you're asking a coach, like, "Hey, coach, I want to work on my tackling." He's like, "All right, when you ready to practice." Well, I got all this stuff going on, and you
Yeah.
kind of don't follow up, and then that makes you look bad, and so you definitely want to follow up on that.
If you get it, if you follow up and don't get a response, what do you do next?
We follow up again, and I mean sometimes it's gonna happen just because people are living their lives too,
Mm.
and so I think that's why I say you got to shoot your shot. Like I think I forgot who said it, but they're like, "Yo, I would rather go 0 for 20 than 0 for 5 because if I went 0 for 5, that means I stopped and gave up. Or if I
Mm.
went 0 for 20, I just kept shooting." Because eventually it's gonna go in, and you're gonna get somebody that really helps you and that's meant for you. But if you give up too soon, then you might wind up working at a job that you don't want to be at for a long
Yeah.
time, and that's not good for the mental health.
You might be working out at Macy's forever.
I know, man. Which Macy's isn't bad if anybody works at Macy's, but
Yeah. Sorry,
if, you know,
sorry.
but if that's not your career path and what you've been working at, then you don't want to be there.
Let's see. With where you are in your career, what is your goal in the next 3 years, 5 years?
So for the next 3 years, I think I want to. This year, I got the ability to learn some different sports that I had never worked on and never really watched. So volleyball was one,
Hey.
soccer was one. Volleyball is so fun. It's fast. It
Thank
is
you.
very
It is
fast.
fast.
It is. It is, especially from my standpoint and what I do with the graphics. It's like, oh, I gotta. Oh, she served her. Oh, what? It was like, wow.
Yeah.
Especially when you see some of like the really good teams play, it is really. But it was dope. It was fun. I talked to one of my good friends, Mary, who played at Indiana.
She just
Super helpful.
commented.
I love Mary like the long way. But so I would ask Mary some stuff. But in the next 3 years, I think I just kind of want to up the events I worked on. If I was working on regular season games this year, like, hey, I want to be a part of the volleyball national championship, or I want to work on the soccer national championships, and really leave my impact on the production side of those sports that I've had the opportunity to work on.
Well, and we'll ask Mary's question. How do you stay motivated in producing a sport you don't like/know a lot about?
I think what helps me is like I'm eager to learn.
Mm.
I've always said this, like no matter what the sport, other than maybe golf, I can watch any sport live. And so I think the more I get into it and the more I learn, the more I'm intrigued about the sport. I did women's basketball this year and I loved it. I was so
Yeah.
disappointed that the tournament didn't happen because working in the ACC, I know all of these girls. I'm like, yo, they've been balling. I want to see what they do up against some of these schools where like they may be higher ranked.
Mm.
But I think live sports, and that's why I like what I do. It's just because it's fun to me. It gives that game high when I'm not playing, but like I'm in the zone, and you never know when the game's gonna go, and that's why we watch
Mhm.
it. So I think that's what keeps me motivated. And there's not really a sport that I've worked that I could say I don't like. You're always gonna get some games that may be a little bit boring, but in that sense, like I know what that game means to those people playing. As a
Mhm.
D2 person, people, oh, that's just a D2 game. But for those 53 people on both sides, like that means so much to them. And so
Yeah,
I try to take that into the production standpoint is I know what it means to that athlete as well because I was in that spot.
it's a great way to look at it. Because I
Yeah.
remember I had to work lacrosse and I had no idea what was going on. Like, I'm bored.
It's fun. It's fun. Once you get lacrosse, like I always look at it like in a mix between like
It's,
basketball and stuff,
yeah,
but it's a
so
fun
many
sport.
different sports
Yeah,
in
it's
one.
fun. Yeah, it's fast too.
Let's see, how difficult was the prep for the ESPN and big interviews?
So ESPN and Big Ten interviews. So I am a very resourceful guy. So I had a friend that worked at ESPN before me. I reached out to him like, yo, hey, what are they gonna talk to me about? Like what questions are they gonna ask? I use Glassdoor, which is awesome to like see what salaries are. They kind of
Mhm.
get interview questions. The first ESPN one was super tough though. Just because this was and I don't know if they still do this, but they literally like rip off like 20 athletes. What does this person do? What sport are they in? And it was like whoa, because they were, and I got hired or I interviewed around like June, so it was like some sports I didn't really know.
Uh,
So I'm just going like I'm on the ESPN website. Who are they talking about? Oh, tennis players. Like so that was tough, but the other hard part about it was both my interviews were video interviews. Where
mhm.
I feel like I'm more of an in-person catch the vibe. So I
Yeah.
think that aspect of it was tough. And then trying to decide like, do I put on pants or do I not put on pants? Do I just go to blazer? But they worked out well. But at the same time, I had people that kind of referred me and they kind of looked out. So I think I kind of went in there like a step ahead. And as long as I didn't blow it, it was cool, but they were about
Mhm.
sports. So it was fun, and I'm passionate about it. So that made it somewhat easier.
Yeah. We've reached our time, but if you could say one thing that you want student athletes to remember from you, from this conversation, what would it be?
Enjoy the present, enjoy that time because there's no time like when you play sports. But take that thrill and take that same competitive attitude that you did and use that in the real world. You'll be just as successful.
Thank you. Thanks so much for joining. Good luck with everything. You will work the
Thank you,
Super Bowl one day.
bro. Can't
Hopefully,
wait.
I'll be like sidelined.
Absolutely, you'll be there, and we'll be like, man, think back to that time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No problem. Have a good one.
You too. All right, guys, that was another great episode. If it's going to be posted, if you just tuned in and you missed it, it'll be posted right away. If you're not into watching it on IG Live, it'll be on YouTube. And then you can follow along for Twitter highlights, LinkedIn, Facebook. I've named them all. Follow us on all of them. We want to thank our partners, though, with Mobot, First Homer Water Bottle. You can get your own on Mobot, their website, and use promo code What's Next and get 25% off. Also, if you're into shopping on Amazon, which I feel like a lot of people are, and if you're not, then get on it. Use smile.amazon.com and choose the winning edge, my bad, the winning edge as your charity to donate to. And we're going to be on in like 10 minutes, so stick around and look forward to another great interview.